Good morning. This is Keith. We're riding to work on Palatine Road in Illinois. Riding a 2007 Yamaha Royal Star Tour Deluxe. It's in summer mode without the windshield. It's 63 degrees right now, which is actually pretty chilly for the middle of July. And without the windshield, I am just a touch chilly. But I love riding shieldless, or naked as they say. This is not my most direct route to work, but it's a nice stretch of road because there's not usually anybody on it. The more direct route is about a mile that way or left, but it's always got lots of traffic. Royal Star moves pretty well. It seemed to have a little hesitation right off the line recently. And so a guy on the forums that's very familiar with this bike said to raise the idle a little bit, like an eighth of a turn of the adjustment screw. And I did, and that did seem to help it some. Not slow by any means, I just seem to have a slight hesitation. One of the coolest features of this bike is cruise control. You don't see too many naked cruisers with cruise control. In fact, I think the only ones out there are this, the newer Kawasaki Nomad, and then the Harley Road Kings. These bikes are dirt cheap. To 2007, I bought it in 2013, or actually 14, with 6,000 miles for $6,000. And they've actually kind of tanked in value the last couple of years. It's now I could probably only get about 4,500 tops for it. Right now it's got about almost 15,000 miles, which for the Yamaha V4 is nothing. I did have to replace the rear shock because the air shocks that come on these tend to not last. And if you replace it with another Yamaha, then there's no guarantee it's going to last either. So in this case, I went with an aftermarket shock by Hagon, which for the most part is okay. But I lost the air adjustment that the original shock had. And then the preload adjustment, you have to pretty much remove the shock to turn down the preload collar. So when I installed it one turn down, just because I'm slightly heavier than the spec. And it's a slightly firmer ride than I would like. I recently rode the touring version of this bike, the Venture, that still had the original air shock, and it seemed a little smoother over the bumps than this one does. That could be just because the bike is heavier, though. It's got a big, about 35-pound trunk on the back, and then it's got a fairing on the front, which I have a love-hate relationship with fairings. It's mostly hate. Just because it blocks your view, it blocks the wind. But that is also the advantage, is that on the road, like on the expressway, I could go like 75, 80 on the Venture with the fairing and not get blown away. This, even with its windshield, tends to have a little helmet buffeting at higher speeds. Other advantage is the fairing can hold radio controls. which if you can see, I've got radio pods on this, but they're not terribly useful above, say, 35-40 miles an hour. In fact, I might say they're useless above 40 miles an hour. But for around town work, they're okay. What I tend to do is I just use my Sena 10C headset camera, and then I just Bluetooth whatever I want. I just had a thought. I wonder if the speakers would actually sound better behind me, because then they wouldn't be contending with the wind noise as much. The problem is then I have to deal with wiring, and I already have it hooked up in kind of an ugly way. Yeah, I'm glad I wore this non-vented jacket, because it's a little chilly. I'd considered just wearing my mesh jacket with a good sweatshirt underneath, but I actually have the good sweatshirt underneath this jacket, and I'm chilly. Illinois has such a short riding season. It doesn't really start to get warm until May, but then usually by mid-June it's hot. And then it cools down, say, mid-September. So basically, July and August are usually very hot riding months. I say usually because this year, like today, the high is supposed to be 72, which is kind of crazy for mid-July, but I'll take it. It's that global cooling thing that's going on. A year ago, the summer was actually abnormally hot. Like, I didn't even go for rides at night because it was just so muggy and stifling that even on a moving bike, it just wasn't that comfortable. So weird. Last year was too hot. This year was, some might say, too cold, but I think it's pretty perfect. Just did an illegal turn from the straight lane instead of the turn lane because I remembered I wanted to make a pit stop this morning. Wanted to get some oil for this bike and for my other bike. I tend to use the Rotella T5W40 it's synthetic, and the Menards I was at last night had the non-synthetic, which I bought for some other bikes and household implements. But I want the synthetic for these bikes, so I have to go up to this other Menards, which is this way. They actually open in 2 minutes, but I'll take about 10 minutes to get there.